is the Deputy Secretary General, and Mr. Venom Billet, the Secretary General, is the gentleman here, and the second Deputy President of SANTACO is Mr. Boy Zondi, and the Treasurer, Mr. Thomas Maswase, where is there at the back, and I think most of you know the Acting Director General, Mr. Mkonyama. We greet you all and welcome you to our joint media briefing as the Department of Transport and the South African National Taxi Council, SANTACO, following the fruitful and progressive meeting held by the two institutions, that is DOT and SANTACO, led by the second Deputy President, Mr. Boy Zondi, and myself, on Friday, the 7th July 2017. The meeting was held as part of the commitment we made as government that will meet the transport industry role players, including the taxi industry, the rail sector, as well as the bus operators, to discuss issues of transformation of this important industry, which is the cornerstone of our economic development. We would like to indicate that we agreed with SANTACO to put on hold the planned strike on the 12th of July 2017 to allow for further engagement on issues that SANTACO brought to the attention of government. Both government and SANTACO agreed to work together to confront challenges that the taxi industry continue to experience on a daily basis, as clearly articulated in the meeting. The meeting agreed to address the three issues that SANTACO raised. One is the issue of taxi subsidy. Two, the operating licenses. Three, access to finance by the taxi operators. In taking the discussions forward, the meeting agreed to establish committees to deal with these issues. What I can indicate is that on the issue of subsidy, you will note that public transport, in particular rail and buses, as of now, get subsidy from the state. However, the taxi industry doesn't get subsidy, though we have what we call taxi recap, which we are re-looking at. I will come to that later. And on the issue of operating licenses, SANTACO raised the issue of backlogs in regard to application for operating licenses. There are areas where they've been waiting for quite long to get those operating licenses. And we agreed that jointly, as the department, through our provincial departments and municipalities, will look at this matter and find an amicable solution. In regard to the issue of access to finance, if you remember, some weeks back, members of SANTACO went public and had a strike raising the matter whereby there are financial institutions that are charging exorbitant interest rates to the to the operators when they apply for finance. I won't go into details in that regard. We'll come to that later. Therefore, as government, we are prepared to assist SANTACO to resolve the three issues. You will note that taxi industry as a mode of transport carries or account for over 68% of the commuters in South Africa. They transport almost 15 million people. This means that the taxi industry remains the most preferred mode of transport. It is therefore inevitable that the issue of the subsidy of the industry needs to be addressed as soon as possible. We have noted the need to address backlogs at provincial regulatory entities which deal with operating licenses. Again, on operating licenses, government has been able to provide legislative requirements of operating licenses to ensure that the taxi operations are confined to specific areas as opposed to the previous radius-based operations. What we are saying is that operators have to be confined to specific routes. It's not allowed in South Africa that you can operate from anywhere where you are not even licensed to operate. That creates unnecessary tension within the public transport sector. Yes, you know that in South Africa there are other interested parties who operate sometimes even without licenses and sometimes not confined to particular radius. That is illegal. We are discussing this matter with SANTACO, and together with SANTACO, we'll make sure that we further discuss the issue of taxi recapitalization program, which is currently under review and will be presented to Cabinet. You know this program of taxi recap very well. As government, we also note the frustration that the taxi industry is experiencing with regard to finance, a matter that I've spoken to, whereby I raised the issue that taxi operators are charged exorbitant interest rates when buying new taxis. You might have seen, it's not necessarily a study, the facts are there that if, for instance, one gets finance, in some instances, at the end of financing one taxi, the taxi operator will have bought one or two other taxis, whereby they are charged almost 28% above, because I think in South Africa the prime is around 9%. And we believe that is unacceptable, and we should assist the taxi operators to get affordable finance in that regard. As the Department of Transport, we are also involving our colleagues in Treasury and other financial agencies, in particular the developmental financial institutions in government, to explore other possible funding mechanisms in this regard. As government, we are indeed upbeat that working together with the taxi industry, we will make sure that we transform this industry into a modern, technology-savvy and safe mode of transport that will become choice for the young and old. This is a matter that we also discuss, that we are living in the information superhighway world. It is time that taxis should also be digitalized so that they are user-friendly, more especially for young people. They cannot continue to do things the old way. We will work together to make sure that there is digitalization and they are brought to speed with technological advancement. To this end, we will be convening transport summits in various sectors of transport to explore further opportunities that will benefit the previously disadvantaged, particularly women, youth, and people with disabilities, to make sure that they are brought into the mainstream of transport economy. And in this regard, to make sure that we continue to work together with transport industry and SANTACO in particular, to empower them to be competent and to be modern. In conclusion, we therefore call upon the taxi industry to unite against any violence and any form of anarchy and criminality in the taxi industry. What we are saying is that there will be no strike as of next week, and anybody who will call the strike, that will not be in the name of SANTACO, because here SANTACO that we are engaging in discussions with. It doesn't mean that we have exhausted all the issues, but we believe that through peaceful negotiations, we'll achieve an amicable settlement. There are issues which we can resolve in the short term, but there are other issues that we can resolve in the medium to long term. But we want to assure the South African public and the international community that come the 12th of July, there will be no strike from the taxi industry. And we want to thank our colleagues from SANTACO. As government, we are seeking partnership with the taxi industry as mass public transport carrier. Together, let us join hands in the implementation of our recently approved National Road Safety Strategy and ensure that our roads are safe at all times. Government acting alone cannot adequately reduce fatalities and injuries on all our roads. United, we can fight the scourge of these atrocities. We also want to pay our condolences to the accidents that have taken place over the week, where almost 18 or so people were involved and fatally in an accident in Mpumalanga and other areas. We also take this opportunity to thank the leadership of SANTACO and the taxi industry in general for continuously engaging with government when there are issues that need to be addressed. We believe that together we can transform the face of the taxi industry for the better. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Deputy President of SANTACO.
Thank you, Program Director. Greetings to the Minister, the Acting DG, my colleagues, media, ladies and gentlemen. I think mine is going to be short. One is to say, as SANTACO, we concur with what the Minister have read. It is us as SANTACO who had called for a mass action that was going to take place on the 12th. We have said to the Minister, it cannot be business as usual anymore in the taxi industry. We've decided to buy turkeys because we've realized that boardrooms are not assisting us as the taxi industry.
Did you know the big hole digging started in 1871 and ended on the 14th August 1914? The hole produced 2,722 kgs of diamonds. However, one diamond as huge as 490 carat of stone found in the open prior 1868 gave them the interest to dig. Extracted from 22.5 million tons of soil. Today, the hole sits at a breathtaking 214 meters deep. Kimberley Big Hole attracts tourists from all over the world, taking a vintage tram past the city, then cycling around the Big Hole.
having discussions with, and therefore this time we want him and those who will be discussing to make sure that there needs to be resolutions quickly that are going to be seen assisting the taxi industry. And for now, we are appealing to all the taxi operators and assuring the public at large that on the 12th, there will be no mass action. But however, if we do get frustrations whilst discussions are taking place, we've still got the techies, as we have said, we are buying them. But we will not just go out there and go out and march. We will tell the minister that we are seeing no progress on what is happening. Therefore, we've got no option but to go out on march. So, but everything else that the minister have read, we all concur with. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy President of SANTACO. We are now arriving at the second part of the media briefing. My colleague, Mr. Mlelekwa, will lead this session and will also connect to Cape Town. Thank you, Mr. Mlelekwa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good morning once again. I hope it's still morning. We will now move straight into the question and answer session. We will take 5 around. You will firstly start with your name and the title that you come from, and then straight into your question. We've got Roy, then 2. Looks like the presentation was very clear. 3. And then ANN 7. 4. We've got 4 questions. Yes, please.
My questions are for the Minister of Transport. The name is Roy Cocaine. I'm from Business Report. I actually have 2 questions, if I may. The first one relates to, well, both of them relate to the issues that the taxi industry has. With regards to subsidies, I've been reporting on this industry for many, many years, and can recall Jeff Radebi, when he was still Minister of Transport, and should have been before 2010, saying at the Southern African Transport Conference that the taxi industry would be subsidized. Nothing has happened. There have been further statements made in that regard. The Deputy President of SANTACO has also alluded to the fact that what comes down to is that the taxi industry has been expected to show a great amount of patience with this whole matter, and it hasn't been resolved. The question really relates to, is the Minister confident that he can actually resolve this issue once and for all and decide on a equitable basis in which buses, trains and the taxi industry will be subsidized? And then with regard to operating licenses as well, this is not a new issue. I can recall attending a court case where SANTACO also brought action against the Gauteng licensing board, whatever they're called. I can't recall offhand. And couldn't there have been intervention earlier? You know, there seems to be this. You don't want to actually go into another talk shop because this issue is going to raise itself again. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Roy. Number 2. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Tina Smith from Power FM. Maybe to just follow on from my colleague's question, but to direct it to SANTACO. Mr. Zondi, how sure are you that it's going to be different this time? What makes you think that the 7th Minister of Transport is going to be able to work it out? Then to the Minister of Transport, perhaps, we heard from the ANC Treasurer General, William Kiza, last week to say that the taxi industry should be part of radical economic transformation. He doesn't see why they shouldn't own the entire components of the entire value chain. Are you working towards something like that? I'll think the other question another one because it doesn't relate to taxi. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 3, yes, sir.
Mr. Minister, my name is Neo Mapiti from SABC Radio News. I've got 2 questions. First to the Minister, Mr. Maswanganyi. the recap, I was listening to Mr. Zondi saying you are the seventh transport minister that they have dealt with since this recap transition program started. Now my question to you is, how serious, similar to the one that Roy raised, how serious is government in terms of bringing in the taxi industry in line with other mode of transport in terms of the subsidy? The second one is that the problems that keep on cropping up, say, are they not an indication that the recap from its inception was not well based or well researched to sort of like assist in solving all the problems in the taxi industry except only one of violence? To Mr. Zondi, the taxi industry, with all the problems that they have, but it seems like you, the leadership, are part of the problem that lacks the guidance to the operators. What are you doing to make sure as an organization that the owner or operators get assistance in various forms of finances and as well as getting upgrading their licenses?
Thank you very much, SABC. ANN7, please.
Okay. The first question will be posed to SANTACO. What time frame have you given the Transport Ministry to implement all these things? And the second question is posed to the Minister. How far are you with finalizing the public transport subsidy policy? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll hand over to the Minister in the leadership of SANTACO for responses. And in the interim, the Minister, I'm not sure, is kept on busy. Okay, sure.
Thank you. There are some questions which are a bit technical, where I will request the acting DG to respond to, more especially on the one on recap. The government is committed to getting all modes of transport, in particular rail, buses and taxis, to be subsidized. We are reworking on the policy of subsidization, whether we subsidize the operator or the commuter. In this regard, as we have discussed with SANTACO, establishing a committee which will meet as soon as possible to look at that policy position. I will take the matter to MINMEC, where I will invite all other 9 colleagues. I can't take a decision alone in this regard. All other 9 colleagues, MECs from provinces, to look at this matter, and from there I will submit the matter to Cabinet to look at it and finally take a decision. And I believe that before the end of this year, or in 5 or so months, the matter will have reached Cabinet. Of course, I can't decide on Cabinet agenda and how it does its business, but it's a matter that will get the relevant attention at that level. And we believe that government will deal with this matter positively. The issue of operating licenses, I think the acting DG will also look at that, in particular the backlog that is there in the Gauteng province, because there was something done in that regard. Of course, the Treasurer General of the ANC is very correct that the taxi industry, which is largely owned by Africans and blacks in general, should also be brought into the mainstream of radical socio-economic transformation. Because radical socio-economic transformation is about transforming the structure of the economy. It's about transforming its content and form. It's about equity, that those who have been previously disadvantaged should be brought into the mainstream of that economy. So that is very important. And taxi industry should not be left behind. And the exorbitant rates, interest rates which they are being charged will in no way bring them into that radical socio-economic transformation. Taxis or taxi operators contribute a lot in the value chain. How many tires do they buy in 1 month? And what do they benefit in return? How much fuel do they buy in 1 month? And what do they benefit in return? You can go on and go on, talk about the components and talk about the money that they pay for permits. It's billions worth of rents that the taxi industry is contributing to the economy. But there is minimum return to that industry. So as government, we'll work very closely with them to assist them that there is meaningful transformation. The same applies for buses. It can't be that there are few big bus operators who come from the previously disadvantaged. There must be more. And in particular, women. There are very few women who participate in the transport industry. In the month of August, we will make sure that we have more activities to highlight the importance of women's participation in the transport sector. And the same applies to youth and people with disability. That's what the ANC is actually talking about, that taxi operators should not just be people who buy taxis, it ends there, but they get exploited. There must be maximum benefit for them in return. As I've said, I'll request the acting DG to look at the issue of backlogs on operating licenses, as well as the issue of recap vis-a-vis the issue of finalizing the public transport subsidy scheme. Mr. Mkonyam, and then we'll go to the second Deputy President on issues that were raised that he has to look at.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. This issue of subsidy, as yes, of course, it has been on the table for some time. It does not necessarily mean that nothing has been done. I think at the technical level, the challenges you always find would be a subsidy regime where you include unscheduled trips that do not necessarily have timetables and related issues. But we are finding each other on that. And that is why the minister has emphasized that going forward, if we are to focus on the user, then we would have solved that problem. Because if you subsidize the user, irrespective of the mode that he or she uses, then the person providing the service will benefit from the subsidy that you are using. We just need to firm up the how part and the administrative part thereof, because it is not so easy to then subsidize from an operator point of view where you have unscheduled trips and you don't necessarily operate as per timetable. So that is the work that we are trying to firm up and finalize, and then we've given ourselves this financial year to complete that work. We will soon be having a public transport roundtable whether everyone else will be making inputs to what we call a final draft and towards conclusion of this matter very soon in the year. And when I say financial year, we're targeting the 31st March 2018. So we need to put this matter to bed once and for all. But this does not necessarily mean, and I want to emphasize that, you see, tax recap is a form of subsidy. It's capital subsidy to the tax industry. And that is because of this difficulty of, in the past, those that were there during the NTT period found it difficult to effect operational subsidy into the space of unscheduled services. And then a form of capital subsidy, the form of tax recap was then introduced to then deal with the scraps or the old vehicles that were there. Now, it has not been that it has failed. It has not failed. The issue with the tax recap is that it had a cut-off date of vehicles which were before 2007. Now, what was glaring in terms of omission was what then happens to the vehicle that you would have recapitalized in 2007, and then 4 or 5 years later, it is old again. And that is what this review is talking to. And that is where then we are wanting to make sure that we are closing those loopholes as we have learned from the tax recap that we had implemented for some time now. And this is where, again, the minister is indicating that we will be going to cabinet with the input from SANTACO. By the way, the meeting of Friday, they touched on these issues, and related to these issues the minister is talking about around the devolution in the transport logistics space. We are, and we can, I'm sure that I can, Minister, mention that we are meeting again with SANTACO on Tuesday, specifically on this matter. Not on the issues around the mass action and the strike, but on how we therefore are going to go forward with a renewed or reviewed tax recapitalization program. And in there is a package that includes all the matters related to value chain processes. The operating licenses, you would also know and recall that the operating licenses are applied at and issued by the provinces. The so-called operating license board and the provincial regulating entities where they are. The new term is the provincial regulating entities. Now, this is where we are experiencing, and the tax industry is experiencing, delays, either in the form of backlogs, whether it is systems issues or admin issues. There are categories of these challenges. One, it is conversions from the old permits to operating licenses. Secondly, it is the renewals where somebody has bought a vehicle or where change of ownership needs to be effected. Then thirdly is the application of new operating licenses. Now these three challenges, these committees that the minister has spoken about are going to categorize these challenges per challenge, per province, so that we then once and for all tackle them. We no longer generalize when we speak issues around operating licenses. If it is a problem in Gauteng, we have to know whether it is in Gauteng, in Lalat, or wherever, in Acacia, the specific issues around that. And this time around, and the question was, how different is it going to be this time around? It's because we'll have to deal with them in their nature without necessarily generalizing to say we are having problems in Gauteng in general. Are we having problems with conversions? Are we having problems with new applications? Are we having problems with transfers and or change of ownership or change of vehicle particulars. And we believe that these teams, obviously working very closely with provinces, will be able to deal with this matter. And we will defeat this because it is not unsurmountable. Thank you.
I think ours is very clear. How sure are we that this time around it's going to happen? As the Minister and the DG have said, we will be putting teams. But besides teams, as the taxi industry, we've spoken to all the various leaders in the taxi industry, provincial, regional, and we've all agreed that it cannot be business as usual. And that is why we have resulted in going out to make public aware that we need change. So we will be putting pressure through those meetings, but as I've said earlier on, we will not carry on with meetings that are not helping us to go anywhere. We will quickly make a noise and we will go out. In fact, the 12th and going forward, it was the respect of the minister who had said, guys, give us a chance. We've heard what you are saying. We've heard that you've had long frustrations. You've mentioned too many ministers, but give me a chance and I'm going to make sure that whatever the concerns that you have brought to, in front of me are addressed. So we will be putting pressure even inside the meetings, but we will not stay long in the meetings if they are frustrating us.
Thank you, leadership.
Yeah. In terms of whether or what we are doing to assist operators with finance and operating license applications, by its very nature, application for finance is regulated by the NCA in terms of affordability, and the only thing we can do is what we've done to march against capital and say that this exorbitant rates that you are charging us are unfair. Because if I buy a private vehicle of R1 million, I can get interest rate of prime. But when I buy a taxi which is going to make money and is able to sustain those very repayments, I'm asked to pay 28%. And that is the things that we are trying to address in the same way. When you apply for an operating license, it is the operator that must go and stand at the pre and then discharge the owners that there is a need for that license. The only thing we can do is what we are doing right now, is to engage government to make sure that there are conducive regulations in place to reduce the burden on the operators and to make it easier for them to obtain those licenses. In terms of the question of time frame, that will be addressed in the terms of reference. But again, as my president has said, we are not going to allow us to be just kept busy in the boardroom and not reaching finality on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, SG. Thank you, leadership. We will now take this opportunity to go to Cape Town. Cape Town, is there a question on your side? Cape Town? Please if not have a question, we will then proceed.
It's trying to respond.
Oh, he's trying to respond.
Looks like it's off. It's not connected. Continue this side.
While there is
What you say is, I say no.
While Everybody is trying to connect. As soon as he's ready, we'll interrupt the process this side. We can take another round of questions if there are any. Again, it's Roy, and number 2 is you, ma'am. Looks like it's only 2 left. Yes, I have one.
Question which I'd like a response from both the Minister and SANTACO. In the negotiations, will the government and Department of Transport be expecting a quid pro quo from the taxi industry in terms of the behaviour of drivers? Every time there are figures over Easter or Christmas, a very high proportion of those deaths are actually attributable to taxi accidents and pedestrians. Those seem to be the major ones. And anyone can see that there are some taxi drivers who actually don't behave the rules of the road. And with regards to SANTACO, would they be prepared to actually make a commitment in terms of the behaviour of their members, in terms of getting a more favourable treatment from government? Thank you.
And I didn't quite get your name clearly last time, sorry.
From Power FM. Minister, if I can just use this opportunity perhaps to ask you about the Uber situation, in fact, right here in Pretoria. I know that the Minister of Police is threatening some tough action, but it doesn't look like they're being very effective. Are you at all in discussions with Uber and the meter taxi drivers? And then perhaps if I can just ask you for a quick comment of the parastatal under your control SANRAL, which you were saying that they're now going to be re-extending bonds, and then also perhaps just your quick comment on the High Court ruling on PRASA the other day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Program Director. We would like to denounce people who are involved in taxi violence. Last month, we went to Dobsonville with Mamuini Madikizela Mandela to run a campaign against taxi violence, because there is a rise on women being abused in taxis. Women raise issues with us that they no longer feel safe to go to taxi ranks. There is an incident where a woman was gang raped. We want to make it clear to the public and to the taxi industry that as government of South Africa will not tolerate a situation where women, more especially young women, feel unsafe to go to bars or taxi ranks, or feel uncomfortable to use taxi as a mode of transport. We want to call upon the leadership of the taxi industry to assure women in particular that it is safe for them to use taxis. And we want to call upon the leadership of the taxi industry to denounce those who are involved in taxi violence, because these paint a very bad name to the industry. And we believe that the leadership of SANTACO is doing everything that it can to deal with their culprits, and they have done so, and they should continue to do so. Also, the issue of driver behavior is a matter that we have or continue to discuss with SANTACO leadership to make sure that from time to time drivers are trained. There is a training program that is run to empower drivers. We also raised the issue, for instance, that the issue of road safety is very, very important. I know that SANTACO has an operation called Operation Hlokomela, which is part of the road safety program, that their drivers and operators must see to it that they are fully committed to Operation Hlokomela. We will work very closely with SANTACO to make sure that we promote road safety, that South African commuters should feel safe to use taxis as a mode of transport. So these are some of the operations that we are running jointly with SANTACO. On the issue of, you spoke about banning we want to denounce anybody who ban or destroy property in South Africa, or anybody who gets involved in killing people in South Africa. We know that there has been issues raised about Uber. Uber is not an operator. Uber is an app that has just been invented. However, what SANTACO has raised with us is that there should be no one who operates as a meter taxi without a license. That is not allowed in South Africa. Anybody who operates any mode of public transport in South Africa is licensed. All bus operators in South Africa are licensed. All train operators, including ours, PRASA, Gautrain, are licensed by RSR, Road Safety Regulator, which falls under our department. All taxis in South Africa are licensed, and those which are not licensed have to be taken out of the road. So no one will operate as a taxi mode of transport without a license. That is the bottom line. It is not safe to use any mode of transport which is unlicensed. Let's make sure, because there are consequences for that in terms of insurance if you use an unlicensed mode of transport. We are engaging with SANTACO to make sure that they also move with the times in terms of digitalization. Gone should be those days where young people will have to spend their little money to buy airtime to call a meter taxi. We are living in an era of technology. They have to digitalize and make sure that they are easily accessible by any means of communication. However, as much as they have got issues with those who operate through this platform called Uber, we cannot allow anybody to ban or destroy those who happen to be in that mode. So we have discussed with SANTACO, and they said it's not their members who banned those cars here in Gauteng, and here they are. They will speak for themselves in that regard, because we cannot promote a situation where there is loss of life and destruction of property. If there are unlicensed operators, together we have to find a way of handling that situation. In other provinces, they have become innovative in dealing with this matter. It's a matter that we'll continue to discuss. And through Parliament, we are amending a legislation to accommodate a new mode of operations, like apps which are coming into the picture. I think the acting DG can talk about that as to how far are we in amending that legislation. So that's our stand. The issue of Sanral, I've met Sanral board to make sure that they are fully operational. There were challenges in Sanral, like you'll know that there is the N2 Wild Coast freeway, which has come to a standstill because of some dispute. I will be going down to the Eastern Cape to meet traditional leaders, the MEC, the Premier, and other stakeholders to deal with the dispute there. Of course, from time to time, those that we borrow money from, the financial institutions, raise issues about communicated with the Minister of Finance to deal with those issues. And we believe for now we have dealt with the challenges that are facing Sanral. And Sanral is up and running. It's one of our most in South Africa. There are, of course, other issues that come from time to time, like the e-toll. We are also dealing with that together with the government of Gauteng, and we believe we'll find everlasting solution. It's a matter that is before the cabinet. And the issue of PRASA, we want to put it here on record that there is no minister up to date who has ever interfered with any court process which involve our entities in the Department of Transport. We allow the law to take its own course. We believe in the rule of law. This is a constitutional democracy. So if there are cases that are there in PRASA, in AXA, and any other board, we will allow the law to take its own course. So there's nothing like any minister or acting DG having interfered. In terms of fighting corruption, there's no minister which has stopped or interfered with any board or any official who's exposing corruption. This government is against corruption because it's costing us money that was supposed to be allocated to the poor. All cases that are in PRASA have been investigated by the public protector. There is a report called Derailed, published by the public protector. In that report, the public protector called or directed the minister to respond, I think, within 30 days by then, as to what was the remedial action that the minister was going to apply. The minister has since replied and put in action all those remedial actions that include, amongst others, involving Treasury to investigate all alleged or irregularly allocated tenders above 10 million, and Treasury is busy with that investigation. We are not going to interfere with Treasury investigations because we want them to do their work unhindered and report to relevant institutions, SIU, the Hawks, the police, and all organs of state that have been entrusted with dealing with corruption. So anybody who alleges that we are interfering is very economic with the truth. It is us who have gone all out to make sure that will not allow any fraudster to operate in our entities. So that's what I can say in regard to all those court cases which are there. Whosoever want to appeal is up to them. But if there is judgment coming from the court, as this government, we will respect that judgment and will apply or implement what the judgment actually direct us to do. Moving towards conclusion, as I've said, that we condemn taxi violence, killings, rape and abuse of women. We also want to call upon those who give credit to taxi operators, that taxi operators are fleet buyers. And generally, if you are a fleet buyer, you are given a discount. However, in South Africa, it's the other way around. Taxi operators who are fleet buyers are charged exorbitantly. That is uncalled for. And we call upon them as the financial sector to work closely with us and the taxi and bus operators to give taxi operators meaningful or affordable credit so that the business can be financially sustainable. So we want to thank again the leadership of SANTACO for having met with us and agreed that they call off the strike on the 12th of July, giving an opportunity for us to discuss. And as the acting DG has indicated, we're meeting again on Tuesday to take discussions forward. And we are really committed to the discussions. And as the minister, I will make sure that the issues that we discuss will reach cabinet, which will take decisions in this regard and make sure that we work harmoniously with the taxi operators. I thank you.
I think on regards to taxi violence that is taking place out there, yes, the minister is right. We also denounce all types of violence that is taking place within the taxi industry, whether it is between a taxi operator and another taxi operator, our customers, anyone. We are saying to taxi operators, and we've been saying this for the number of times, that we've got boardrooms. If there are any issues with anybody, we need to go into boardrooms and sort out our issues into boardrooms. We cannot resort into violence. It's even worse when we are fighting our own customers. We need to make sure that we get more passengers into our transport. And by raping women, it is not the way of getting more customers. We're ending up scaring them. Therefore, all those who are doing that in the name of the taxi industry need to stop now. It cannot carry on the way that they are doing. But we've started, and with the assistance of all the MECs, the minister, we are sure that we are going to get there. We cannot have a lawlessness taxi industry. We are in business. We therefore appeal to all taxi operators to operate according to how other businesses are operating. In regards to Uber, yes, the minister is right. We have raised the issue with them. We are saying all modes of public transport needs to be issued with permits. It is not fair to those meter taxi operators that there is a company using an app and they are not required to have permits. And the minister have agreed to that, to say that everyone, as you've heard it yourselves, that everyone who operates in the public space needs to have operating licenses. But there will be discussions that will be going forward. Therefore, we are also appeal to our operators out there to say it is not called for that if there is an issue that we need to end up banning each other. Let's get into boardrooms, let's negotiate, and let's sort out the issues the business way. I thank you.
Yeah, I think it's unheard of that somebody can say that the taxi industry must modify their behavior in order to get preferential or favorable treatment from government. We are business people. We are responsible. The drivers that we employ come from communities. It is true that they need to undergo training, also to modify their own behavior on the road, the way they view other road users. For us, road safety is of paramount importance. And contrary to popular belief, taxi industry only contribute 3% to road carnages. Unfortunately, when one of our vehicles is involved in an accident, there are many people in the vehicle. But I want to assure South Africans that we do take road safety seriously, and we do not want to see the accidents that is happening on our roads. And most of these are avoidable crashes because it happens as a result of driver behavior. And that is why I say we need to modify the behavior through training. I also want to just add on the issue of violence against women and the girl child. We are strongly opposed to that. To that end, we joined in a partnership with Sonke Gender to ensure that we educate our drivers, our employees, of the fact that we are actually fighting against ourselves when we violate women and girl children, for that matter. And taxi violence, we do not want to see it in our ranks. And we really want to ask the police to put more effort into bringing the perpetrators to book, because it is very rarely that we see anyone convicted for these senseless killings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Chief of SANTACO. There are no questions in Cape Town. Questions are exhausted here, so we will. We wouldn't want to take that after the interview. That provision is there. So we will now move towards closure. The Minister and the leadership are open to take post-media briefing questions. I've just been told that lunch will be served in 10 minutes, and you are invited to the Sunday lunch with the Minister. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I would want to announce closure to our evening session this afternoon. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, President.
Not bad.
Thank you, Program Director.
Ariel Conyon. No, thank you. Really,